In this video, we're going to talk about histograms. So histograms are very similar to bar graphs. They are a type of bar graph, but they're slightly different in that each bar doesn't represent a number, but instead represents the count of numbers. And what I mean by that is when it looks in the column that you specified you're looking for values in, and it sees a 2, it doesn't create a bar that's too tall. What it does is it then looks in the rest of your data, and maybe it finds 4 other 2s. Then it's going to make a bar that's 5 tall because there are 5 2s. And there'll be a 2 on the x-axis, but the bar will be 5 tall. And I know most of you probably know what a histogram is, but I just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page. So the 2 libraries we're going to need for this code are histdata and ggplot2. And we're going to use a data frame that I didn't say we were going to use, but it's the one that works best for this type of graph, so we're going to use it. And it's called rivers, and it comes in the histdata package. And we're going to just take a quick look at it. And if you notice, it's just 1 column long, and the column doesn't even have a title. And that's a problem. If we go to lookup, and we can look it up in the help bar, if we look up rivers, we see that this data set contains the lengths of major North American rivers and their lengths in miles. But you can see that it's just a vector, it's not a data frame. And for ggplot, you have to have your data in a data frame. Luckily, it's very simple to change a vector into a data frame. Let's make a new name. We're going to call it river data, and we save it as .data.frame, and then you put the name of your non-data frame in, and then when you run it, and if we do the str function, which you recall gives you a bit of information about anything, and we say river data, then we can see that it is now a data frame with 141 observations. And if we view river data, we can see that now it's a data frame and it's not an X in the title, but it's actually got a column name. So to make this graph, we're going to put our base ggplot code, and we're going to say our data is river data, the new data frame that we just made. And within our aesthetics section, we're only going to put an X value, because if you recall, the y-axis is automatically generated. That isn't a column in our data frame already. And then we're going to add geom histogram, and the bin width here represents the width of each bar in our graph. And because the values here are so big, we're going to set that at 100. So when we run this, it's going to give us the most basic histogram that we can get. It's just black bars, and each of these bars is 100 wide. So we can see that if we were to make it a smaller number, like say 10, it wouldn't really be visible on here. So we've just chosen a bin width that gives us a good shape, but isn't too big, because if we make it too large, then it doesn't represent our data well. So if we make it 1,000, that's not actually what the data really looks like. It doesn't give us a good sense of the shape of the graph. So that's why we've chosen 100. It lets us see that shape. Now, this graph is nice, but it's not ideal. Our X and Y axes aren't labeled very well. It doesn't have a title. We don't really know what this is showing us. So I've gone and changed a bunch of the elements within it. And I'm going to walk you through this because there's a huge difference between this 2 lines of code and this 8 lines of code down here. So as you can see, we've still got the same original data. We've still got river data, X equals rivers, bin width equals 100. But then within the geom histogram parentheses, so this is the whole thing. Within geom histogram, we have bin width equals 100, but then I've changed the color of the outline of each bar to black, and I've changed the inside fill of each bar to blue. And when I say alpha here, that's how transparent or opaque it is. So 0.2 is pretty transparent. It's just so it's not such a harsh color, because I'm trying to make this look aesthetically pleasing. Then the next thing I've added is a title, lengths of major US rivers. Then I've added a different x-axis label and different y-axis label. And then I've also added a line to represent the mean of this whole data set. So the way I've done this, I've done geom v line, so that just means vertical line. I could do an H line there as well, and that would give me a horizontal. And then the aesthetics of this, I want the x-intercept to be the mean of this whole data set, and I can do that because it's only one column, so it's just going to take the mean of that column. And then what this means is it's a way of saying take the mean, but remove NA when NA equals true. So remove any NAs and don't count that into the mean. I've closed the aesthetic parenthesis, but then still within geom_line, I have what color I want the line to be, what type of line I want it to be, and how wide I want it to be. So when I run this whole huge line of code, it's going to give me this graph, and that looks a whole lot better than what it did before. It's got a nicer color. I can see each of these bars more easily. I've got the mean line. I've got accurate axes labels and a title. So just with this graph, I've gone over a whole bunch of ways to manipulate histograms. There are, however, many ways to change around your graphs, to add labels in different places, to change colors and densities and things like that. So I encourage you to go to the R Cookbook website, which has a lot of different stuff about the aesthetic elements of graphs, and play around with it for yourself, because this is certainly not all the stuff you can do, although it is a lot. So in this video, we learned how to make a histogram, how to change around elements of that histogram, as well as how to turn a vector into a data frame for use in ggplot. In the next lecture, we're going to look at density plots, which are similar to histograms, but not quite the same.